north of 90% of disease is lifestyle based. Let's not wait for things to go wrong. Let's do something consistently so that that doesn't ever happen in the first place. The lifestyle of a high performer is inherently an unhealthy one. Every day is do or die.
Welcome to the Restorative Force podcast, where we believe that it should feel good to be human. Modern life is fast-paced and often unforgiving. It stresses our minds, bodies, and the planet more than it needs to. So through conversations and ideas, our aim is to uncover the roadmap for shifting unsustainable cultures at pace for both personal and planetary well-being. So take a deep breath and join me, Hannah Pang, as we explore the path towards restoration and regeneration for ourselves and the world around us. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Restorative Force podcast. My name is Hannah Pang, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Harry Jameson, who is a well-being-focused entrepreneur whose goal is to drive performance, growth, and value into all of the projects he's involved with, which is many. So not only is he one of the founders at RAIN, he's also the CEO and co-founder of Pillar, as well as the co-founder of Future Practice. And this comes after a long career as an award-winning personal trainer and performance coach. So we're going to dive into lots of detail on that. Harry's also a brand ambassador for both Lululemon and Technogym as well, and also has a column for The Times in the UK. So a busy guy.
A busy guy, yeah.
Well, welcome onto our podcast. I'm very excited to be with you. Would love if you can, I guess, just start by expanding a little bit more about your background and your career and your journey into being the multi-business entrepreneur you are today.
I'm excited to be here because, we talked about this podcast for a while and we're here in an amazing Spotify studio. And, I think entrepreneurship, business, all of those things are, having fantastic ideas. And actually when they come to life and you see them physically, or you experience them physically, it's sometimes a bit of a pinch you moment. So I'm very, very happy to be here and to be chatting, I guess, about, a bit about my background. And so, we should start at the beginning. And, I was a personal trainer for 20 years and consider myself, I think once you're a coach, you're kind of always a coach. I'm always sort of coaching people. And I started off doing a sports science and psychology degree at Liverpool University, and I guess the combined honours of sports science with psychology meant my interest from the very beginning was mind with body to produce a good performance. I think personal training was in its infancy in the early 2000s, and people were very concerned with how much body fat you could lose and how much muscle you could gain, and less concerned with what we now consider to be the wellness industry, and that was really my interest, was digestive health and sleep and immunity and longevity and lots of the cognitive function, lots of the things that result in high performing people being able to perform at a high level, not just one off but consistently over a long period of time. I wanted to help coach those people and to drag the best out of those people, and was able to get my hands on some super interesting clients because that was my approach, that was my methodology. We coined the phrase quite early on, the business athlete. And so how do I take and start to approach a businessman or woman, entrepreneur, C-suite executive as an athlete? I can't just, take this successful middle-aged man who's incredibly jet-lagged and a bit hungover and put him through, an athlete training session and expect him not to burn out. I need to look at his joint mobility, his joint health, his digestive health, which in turn impacts his, immunity and happiness. And so we looked at multi-factor. We took a multifactorial approach and also embedded some medical expertise in our coaching team to be able to get the best out of, people, the owners of Chelsea Football Club and managing partners of McKinsey, and worked with one of the former prime ministers for several years. So those types of people would never consider themselves athletes, but I treated them like athletes. And that basis of movement, recovery and nutrition, which are the three pillars of Pillar Wellbeing, which is our health club business, really the foundation was set up during a 20-year career, but also understanding the wants and needs of those types of individuals, their personality traits, the stresses and pressures that they faced every day, getting under the skin of those people, becoming very friendly with those people, becoming part confidant to some, to them, helped me be successful in that space, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we talk a lot about at RAIN, is looking at the high performers in the world. How do we better support their wellness and their well-being so they can continue to go out and make a positive impact in the world? Whereas often the wellness industry is very much about the facade of wellness, and it's about the aesthetic benefit of being well and healthy and working out, when well-being, there's so many more like factors and facets to it, and looking at it much more holistically about what's all the input that you need so that you can go out and deliver better output. And that's so important with your client base and a lot of our customers at RAIN as well. And even for you personally, as a high performer yourself, what are your wellness practices and rituals that enable you to go out and be the high performer you are with clients and be the co-founder and CEO of so many different businesses?
I think, I guess when I kind of switched from being a trainer and a coach into being an entrepreneur, I definitely had to start to, drink my own Kool-Aid and start to take my own advice, this advice that I've been liberally dishing out to these individuals over a long period of time. The advice was, make sure you manage your sleep, make sure you make time for exercise, make sure you do cardiovascular exercise as well as resistance training, make sure you maintain your joint health, make sure you eat properly, but expecting somebody with a lifestyle like that not to drink alcohol and not to drink caffeine and not to have a lifestyle which is not conducive to health is unrealistic. A lot of this work that we did with clients, that I did with clients, and I guess that we try to push forward in the different businesses that we work in, although they're very different industries, FMCG, product-based or education-based or service-based, we're always trying to empower people with tools to help them perform at a better level. But some of it's damage limitation. Some of it is you're going to be jet lagged, you're going to be stressed, there's going to be pressure. These things will help you cope with that better. It's not expecting people to live the life of a monk, because that is incredibly unrealistic, and I definitely don't live a life of a monk. I'm a big foodie. I was never a PT who ate broccoli out of a Tupperware box, because I just think life is too short for that. So I've always enjoyed wine, I've always enjoyed food, I've enjoyed those things. But I've always had I've had incredible discipline and structure around my own personal fitness, my ice baths or meditative practice or supplements that I've taken, over the years. I've been consistent with those behaviours, and that has probably allowed me to have a few late nights out. It's allowed me to bounce back a little bit better when I have to go to and from the Middle East once or twice a month, or to or from New York. Unless you have some structured rituals and practices in place, north of 90% of disease is lifestyle based. Only 10% of things that are going to go wrong with you or with I are down to our genetics. So it's our health is within our hands, and the lifestyle of a high performer is inherently an unhealthy one. Generally, it is one of less sleep, it is one of more stress, it is one of more pressure. It is often one of food choices that are convenient rather than that are healthy. And so without practices in place, your health becomes at risk. And I think that for a long time, this high performance lifestyle was almost a badge of honor. Like if you went to the city in the 90s, lawyers slept under their desk, and then they got up the next morning having drank a load the night before, went outside, smoked a cigarette, had some coffee, and went back to their desk. Now, there's no wonder that burnout was a phenomenon in the early 2000s, as was stress, as was depression, as was anxiety. That shouldn't be a badge of honor. Sleep is now a badge of honor. Yes. Look at my Whoop score. Yeah. Wow. Look at my rather than the other way around. So it's been, I haven't really answered your question, but actually the trends that we're seeing is this shift in mindset away from, I want to be the first in the office and the last to leave and sleep when I'm dead, and look how much I can drink, versus the badge of honor is, look how fit I am, look how low my resting heart rate is, look at my Whoop score, look at the supplements I take every day, look at my body, look how good I look at my Instagram. That is much more, health and wellness is a much more of a badge of honor than it ever was. But as a result of which, people who do live that lifestyle are able to do more.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, a happy, healthy, well-nourished, well-rested, well-motivated, fit individual with more energy gets more done in the day.
Funny how that works.
Very, very funny how that works. And it less people drink alcohol and less people take drugs as they used to, and it's kind of become cool to be healthy. Which I'm very happy about, because all my businesses are based around trying to help people do that.
Yeah. Okay. So, but back to you and your rituals.
My rituals. I dodged that question very well by rambling on about the trend of wellness. My personal rituals. So my exercise regime, I'll start with my long run at the weekend. If I run long on one of the days on the weekend, I'll rest completely, 100%. Which I don't like doing because I like to exercise every day. But as I've got older, that one full day of complete rest is really, really important. You know, all your muscular growth and repair happens when you sleep. Your body needs a chance to grow again after the damage you've done during the week. So all of you fitness fanatics out there, make sure you get one full day of rest. And I do that on the weekend. The day on the weekend that I don't rest, I run long and slow. 60 to 90 minutes, listening to one of your podcasts or a podcast. I really like that kind of, absorbing information while I'm running. I'm going through the almanac of Naval Ravikant at the moment, who's someone who I love. And so I'll listen to some of his philosophy or some of his views on the world. Monday, full body strength work. Tuesday, boxing. Wednesday, Pilates. Thursday, I've actually started doing swimming lessons because I'm trying to train for a triathlon. It's not that I can't swim, it's just I swim very badly. Friday, I will do full body strength again, and squeezed in to that week will be a round of golf when I can get away with it. That's my fitness regime. And then I'll take ice bath, I'll sauna almost every day.
Well done.
Jump in and out with a cold shower or a cold plunge, depending on where I am. I will ice bath 2 to 3 times a week. A lot of science now around not ice bathing immediately after exercise because you blunt that physiological response. Actually, we want damage after we train. So after a long run or after a big weight session, I won't normally go in to the ice bath straight afterwards. Actually, ice bath is a kind of separate routine, so I might do that first thing in the morning, or I might do that, in the afternoon. I have one at home in the garden. My kids love it. They come out and laugh at me. My breathing exercises and my meditation's probably been the part of my routine that gets missed the most. I'm least consistent with, but my morning is wake up, water, flow state mushrooms, coffee, sometimes ice bath if I'm feeling brave, and then I'm out. So that's my supplements, that's my fitness, that's my breath work, and I'm not as good as at my pre-sleep routine as I should be. I don't really have one, but I've stopped watching screens and started listening to things as I fall asleep, which actually has helped me.
Nice. Great tips in there. I think a couple of things that I got from that is like the consistency is super important. So figure out a routine that really just works for you and make sure it's varied to keep it interesting and doesn't get boring. And I think as well just to like prioritize it. Like you have so much going on and you're very busy, but as you say, it enables you to do those things more efficiently, effectively, and better if you're setting yourself up really well. And then, so the next thing that I want to dive into is recovery. So you mentioned a little bit about it already, recovery, sleep, and the importance of it. And I guess a specific question I have for you is because not too long ago, you got a hip replacement.
I did. I had a full hip replacement on the right side. So I got some pretty good use out of that old hip before I had to have it replaced. And I'd run 3 marathons and I'd done multiple big sort of 500-kilometre cycle rides, point to point through Europe. I'd hammered it. I'd played sport my whole life, and it had arthritis in it. So it was a kind of, usage meets genetic predisposition. And I'd lived with quite a lot of pain in it for about 10 years. I love skiing. And last season, I couldn't ski. I was like, oh, man, I got to do something about this. And so I had a full right-sided hip replacement. I had an amazing surgeon called Mark George, who had sort of famously got Andy Murray back to playing high-level professional tennis, who'd had a hip replacement in his late 30s. And so, a guy called Errol Umit, who's our physio partner at Pillar, and he, I won't swear on this, but he took one look at my hip and he said, Harry, your hip is F and you need a new one. And I was like, and I've been trying to sort of beat around the bush and kick the can down the road for quite a long time. And I had more osteo and physio and deep tissue and needles in it than I ever had. And it got to the point where the joint was gone. So I did that, and I was so incredibly diligent on my recovery from that operation, because the whole idea that I didn't want to just be pain-free. Lots of people who have hip replacements are kind of 75-year-old women who want to get back to doing a little bit of gardening and just don't want to be in pain. And I was like, I'm signed up to do a half marathon in February, which is exactly a year after having it replaced. And so I was like, I want to get back to very decent level sport. I want to get back to running every week. I want to get back to lifting weights. I don't want to be in pain. I want to be kicking a football at my little boy and little girl into my 60s and 70s. I don't want to be like, Dad can't do
Hobbling
that. Yeah,
about.
hobbly old dad, which I was, but hobbly young dad, because I was 40 years old. I was not old. And so the structure and diligence that I'd applied to my training all of my life, which had then is the same structure and diligence I apply to my professional life. I think there's a huge knock-on. If you can become really structured and disciplined in one area of your life, I think it allows you to transfer that into other areas of your life. And I trained, every day for 20 years, give or take, and I saunaed every day, and I'd done all of this stuff. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a chore for me. So when starting businesses or when trying to rehab a specific injury, I approached that with the very same mentality, which was, do this now, even though you don't really want to, diligently and to the best of your ability, and you'll reap the rewards further down the line. Any success in sort of life or business that I'm experiencing at the moment, it's because of the work I did 10 years ago. And I think the idea of delayed gratification is often underappreciated. Now, I'm going to work my butt off on these really annoying, horrible little movements that I have to do with my hip in order to have the mobility and the strength that I want. And in 6 months' time, I'm going to be able to run pain-free. And in 6 months after that, I'm going to run a half marathon. It's going to be the quickest one I've ever done. And 6 months after that, who knows? And the applying really, really good structure to the way that you recover, not just the way that you train, making sure you get the massages or use the balm or have the ice baths or do the breathing exercises. Or I recently did this little Wim Hof workshop, which was pretty revolutionary, which we can chat about.
Yeah.
But finding ways to hack your recovery, for me, was more important, and as I've got older, has become more important than finding ways to hack my training. And energy is recovery for me is the restoration of energy. So if I can give myself more energy. Someone who you've had on this podcast, who is a friend and colleague of mine, Oliver Patrick, talks about our human body as being this little battery, and the energy just goes down constantly throughout the day and the month and the week and the year. And if you don't stop and recharge that battery, you're in trouble. And so, I worked very hard on my rehabilitation and very hard on my recovery.
Yeah, and can you talk more about like your recovery hacks? Like one, I think it is quite a big mindset shift even for myself. Like I would love to say I stretch more and properly, recover after workouts, but I don't always do that. So,
you and everybody else, by the way, you're not unique in not enjoying the the feeling of, if you are inflexible, the feeling of bending over and trying to touch your toes is such an awful feeling. Your horrible tight hamstrings pulling. So what do? You just don't do it. And the less you do it, the shorter and tighter your hamstrings become. And then lo and behold, on your cold winter morning when you go for a run, ping, you pull your hamstring. And so, and you know, you're younger, so you can get away with it. You probably had a bit of natural flexibility, so you can get away with it. You've done a fair share of yoga classes in your life, so you can get away with it a little bit more. But rest assured, middle age kicks
It'll catch up with me.
Middle age kicks you in the butt. You feel it, and you will be so glad that you did it.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of recovery is preventative. Let's not wait for things to go wrong. Let's do something consistently so that doesn't ever happen in the first place. And I think my joint mobility had a light shone on it because I had a hip replacement, and I'd always had poor mobility because I had an arthritic hip. But that, you know, my hip mobility on the other side isn't great. But after having the operation, I had to do so much range of motion work and make sure my lower back was okay. And then now I do a lot more for my shoulders than I ever used to, and my back health and my spinal health, which in turn helps with my posture. You know, I'm lucky that I don't have a bad back. My younger brother has a really bad back. He's always had a bad back. And, you know, I work hard on my rotation because I like playing golf and I want to swing the golf club a little bit better. And so all of the knock-on effect of having a body that moves a bit better is that you can do things a bit better. And the more things you can do well physically, the more energy you have, and so on and so on. So mobility every day, stretching for 15, 20 minutes, either before or after working out, or both.
Both, yeah.
My little hack for that is I'm now very fortunate that at Pillar we have a big sauna, and so I take my towel into the sauna with me after I work out, and I stretch in the sauna.
Nice.
So it makes it. I mean, you're more supple when you're warm, and it makes me hate the stretching less, because I don't love stretching, by the way. I also hate stretching. But, sometimes you've got to do stuff you hate.
That's a nice space. Yeah, set yourself up for success.
So the habit stacking, isn't it? So make sure that you do. My best habit stack in the morning, as I said, I wake up, have my water, take my flow state mushrooms. When I can't drink coffee when it's really hot, and so I pour my boiling kettle in. Yeah. We have like French press coffee, and whilst when I do my box breathing or my box breathing or my daily calm, it takes about 8 minutes to do. And I know that my coffee will be perfectly drinkable when I've done that with those breathing exercises. Nice. So when I'm waiting for my coffee to be drinkable, I do my breathing exercises. Yeah. And it means I get, a double whammy in the morning.
I'm similar, but I do my Duolingo.
Ah.
So I'm on a 100-day streak from waiting for the kettle to boil.
Wow.
Do my few minutes of Mandarin every morning.
That's brilliant. Tell me something in Mandarin.
Another day.
You're on the spot there.
Yeah. So you mentioned this earlier in our conversation, but I would love to get back into what you said of 90% of diseases are from lifestyle, and how much of our lifestyle and how much of modern day life is actually causing us to be quite unwell and live in a way that is out of alignment with how we are actually designed in our human bodies. So I would love if you can dive into that more of like, what are the main contributing factors to how unwell we are?
It's really interesting. So super quick history lesson. 10,000 years ago, or tens of thousands of years ago, and our bodies, the flesh and blood that you see in front of you now, are exactly the same then. They are the same now as they were then. And let's rewind when we were sort of cavemen and cave women, and a saber-toothed tiger was running across the plain trying to kill us. Our body would initiate a stress response, the fight or flight stress response, dump a load of cortisol and adrenaline into our system, which would prepare us to kill this animal, or to grab our families and to run away from this animal. And when that stress response was initiated, all the non-essential functions would shut down. Do I need this for running or for fighting? And if I don't, it does not going to work.
Yeah.
Digestion shuts down, sexual function shuts down, all of these other bodily functions. Again, completely automatic. This is not a conscious process. They just shut down. And then you run. Now, that same physiological response is still initiated today, but it's initiated through things that are not actually life-threatening, like watching bad things on the news, or getting a bad email, or checking your bank balance, or having an argument with your boss. So whilst the flesh and blood that we are is the same, the world in which we live in is exponentially different, and our physiology hasn't adapted and evolved for that. So we're spending huge amounts of time in this heightened, stressed, inflamed state without shifting our autonomic nervous system over to the other side, initiating your parasympathetic response, and really looking at the way the autonomic nervous system works. You have your sympathetic, parasympathetic. You're either resting and digesting, or you're fighting and flying, and we're spending too much time in the red. Now, as a result of which, imagine your digestive system shuts down. 70% of your immune system is located in your digestive system, in your gut. 90% of your serotonin, which decides whether you're happy, is in your gut. So if that's constantly being switched off, of course you're more prone to illness, because your immune system is not working properly. And of course you're more prone to stress and depression, because your body's not producing enough happy hormones. And so we're not just talking about lifestyle disease, and you're not primed for defending off against cancers and defending off against other lifestyle diseases. And by lifestyle diseases, they're called lifestyle diseases for a reason. So type 2 diabetes, or cardiovascular disease, even things like dementia and Alzheimer's, from a sort of cognitive degenerative perspective, can be contributed to through your lifestyle. So by helping your body get into a restorative place,
yes.
to take the title of this podcast, has a huge knock-on impact on your immunity, on your happiness, on your mood state, on your body's ability to reduce inflammation, on your body's ability to grow, and your body's ability to restore energy. So I'm now currently in a heightened state. Otherwise, I'd be asleep on the floor. So you do need that level of stress. You do need adrenaline. You do need to show up well, but you also need to counterbalance that. So through your daily routine, your routine from a wellness perspective should be around helping your body get into a more restorative place, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. Because this isn't all just a physical thing. You need to emotionally connect with nature and have conversations with people that you love, and hug your partner and hold your child's hand. Those things are hugely important. Walking on a beach, looking at a sunset is hugely restorative. You just fills your soul. And so whilst the world around us has changed and we're constantly fighting off things that our body perceives to be life-threatening, although they are not, and the way the world is at the moment, you can't turn on your phone without seeing something awful going on somewhere in the world, whether it's a war or a famine or a child who's been hurt. Those things really do affect us.
Yeah.
And thoughts and feelings manifest themselves physically. Stressed people get stomach ulcers. There's a reason for that. It's because they're the way your body is reacting. So the large increase in these lifestyle diseases could be largely attributed to this state of heightened stress that we find our physiology in, when it shouldn't be. Now, let's use an ice bath as an example. We know, exposure to extreme heat and extreme cold, whilst at the time is quite shocking for you, afterwards there are huge endorphin releases, and sleep is optimized, and your body is able to shift and down-regulate that autonomic nervous response. So will having an ice bath stop you ever getting cancer? No, it won't. But it can be that butterfly effect, and if used consistently over time, it's a great preventative tool, as can meditation, as can breathing exercises, as can breathwork prior to sleep. Those things are all around putting your body into a physiological state in which it can recover. And a lack of recovery is a large contributory factor to increased likelihood of lifestyle disease.
Yeah, it's almost as if both from what we were talking about at the beginning of like physical recovery from workouts, we also need to take the same approach into our lives. So when we go through those stressful moments at work or in relationships or with family, you also need to have a recovery period for that, so that you're helping work with your body's natural systems to get it back into that place where it's in kind of homeostasis and can recover and can be more balanced.
I think completely. I think if we go back and think about that term business athlete,
Yeah.
Athletes go through huge amounts of training that build up to huge performances, and then they have an off season, and then they rest, and then they train again, and then they train hard, and then they sprint, and then they have a huge performance. Now that cycle might be 1 week long, or in the case of an Olympian, that's a 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
You train for 4 years to run for 25 seconds, and then you get to recover again. Now, life and business is a bit like that. Although we've forgotten the off season and we've forgotten the recovery bit, all we've done is
Always on.
Always on.
Yeah.
Every day is do or die. If you're an entrepreneur at the moment, the world is a tough place. Raising money is hard. Interest rates are high, so debt is expensive. Venture capital and is drying. It's not drying up. They're just not deploying money into early stage businesses as they were a couple of years ago, because everyone's a bit worried and everyone's a bit nervous and the economy's a bit shaky. So you can wake up every day feeling like you've got to go to war, and it is. And so by the time Friday night comes, you're ready to have 12 pints of beer and then forget about everything a little bit. And that's not recovery, because that's murdered your body's ability to fall into deep sleep. So it is more important than ever, if you want to be somebody who is successful or driving a business forward that is successful, that you do consider there are those down moments, that you do consider that. And I love playing golf, and I love playing golf because I spend time with my friends and my family, but I love playing golf because it's 4 hours where I'm not looking at my phone. I'm doing something I enjoy. It's incredibly cathartic, also incredibly frustrating if you're not playing well. But it is super important.
Yeah,
and
it's physical, and you're also outside.
It's physical, you're outside, you're looking at the greenery, you're breathing fresh air, you're having great conversations with people who you enjoy. But let's say you don't like golf. Let's say you like, we used to work with busy executives, and one of them loved playing the guitar. I said, when was the last time you sat down and played the guitar? He's like, I haven't done it for years. It is hugely important, and taking part in hobbies and activities, or drawing, or photography, or art, or singing, or baking, or whatever, that thing which is distracting away from the stresses and pressures, that's a form of recovery.
Yeah.
Because it is cathartic. It is the release of pressure. I find I love cooking. I love it because I don't do it every single day, and it's not a chore to me.
Yeah.
And I love cooking with my children, and I love playing golf, and I love, going to the cinema and the theatre, because those things are for me as important as your ice baths and your supplements and your sports massages.
It's like we need to see or redefine what productivity is and means and looks like, because often I feel like if you're spending time doing your hobbies or you're spending time meditating, then, that's time that you're not working. But if you reframe it to look at those things enable you to be productive and to be healthy so that you can continue showing up and doing the things that you want to do and have the responsibility of doing, then all of those things are productive, but it just makes your days and your time way more enjoyable, and it makes you healthier as well in the long run.
I couldn't agree more. I think you asked me in the very beginning, how do you have a routine that allows you to do all of these things? And that's a huge part of it, is that I always make time to connect with my wife, to spend with my children, to do my personal hobbies, to play the sport that I love, or to go and watch the sport that I love. I'm a big Arsenal fan, and we go to the game, and it's brilliant. And I think it's a fallacy that we need to sacrifice everything in the short term friends, family, love life, sporting activities, physical fitness, in the pursuit of something normally financial. And then when we get our money, we can have those things back.
Yeah.
You get one life, right? You get one shot at this. Let's try and spend as much of it happy as we possibly can. And I don't think you need to adopt this, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I'm rich. I'll be happy when I'm married. Happy when I've got a bigger house. If you're not happy now, those things will not make you happy.
Totally.
Unfortunately, there's a brilliant term that I heard, and it was the happiness that a man finds at the top of a mountain is the happiness that he brought with him. And so if you're expecting to summit that mountain and have some sort of eureka moment, no, you bring that happiness with you, and that happiness comes in the form of health. It comes in the form of interpersonal relationships. It comes in the form of love from those around you and the love that you give out. It comes in the form of energy. You've got to take that with you.
Totally.
Don't sacrifice those things on the way.
It's the journey, not the destination.
It's the journey, baby. It's the journey.
Are there any, I guess, from your long career in the wellness world and seeing how it's kind of shifted from being about, the not having any body fat and just muscle all the way to now of us starting to understand how it's part of being a human and enjoying our time here and enjoying our days. Are there any other, I guess, shifts or trends that you're seeing in the wellness world that you're feeling quite excited about, or things that we're learning and uncovering about being well and the contributing factors about that you think are really interesting and will kind of come to light over the next couple of years?
That's a great question, because I think the motivation behind why people will start a new routine or start, engaging in a new behaviour has changed. It was 95% body composition based. I want to lose a bit of fat, or I want to lose a lot of weight, or I want to gain some muscle. So I'm going to start going to the gym, or start running, or start ballet, or whatever. It was how they wanted to look. And I think the consumer shift now is really people heading towards a place of how they want to feel. I want to feel like I've got more energy. I want to feel happier. Maybe fertility is a driver behind what they want to do. Or I want to be able to concentrate more. I want to be more productive at work. I want to be a better dad. I want to feel better. And so part of that can be measured. We've got so many wearables and trackables now that heart rate variability data is available through my Whoop or my Aura Ring. So if you give me this product and it says I'm going to help you sleep, actually now I can check that. But there'll always be this subjective feeling, do you feel good?
Yeah.
And people are now motivated by a feeling as much as they are around an aesthetic. And so especially, a younger generation, I think that's why the generation younger, under my generation, I'm in my 40s, drink less alcohol than my generation does. Because ultimately alcohol makes you feel pretty crap the next day. And I think people are pushing back against that. Why am I doing this thing to myself that doesn't make me feel very good? And I feel a bit anxious the next day. And it makes me gain weight. And it's way more negative than it is positive. And so people pushing back on those types of things and investing their time in things that make them feel good. I invest more time in educating myself and into personal development. So a shift away from aesthetic and more towards feeling, I think, is a great trend. I think in my business, over COVID, we saw a big shift towards sort of digital experiences. Peloton, everyone had a Peloton in their house. Right. Fitness apps where we would, do workouts in front of the iPad at home. And I think that's come full circle now. And I think people are getting back into wanting to be together with other human beings and be back part of a community.
Like the social aspect.
The social aspect is huge. The number of run clubs that are sprung up all over the place, and and that's a really great thing to go for a run and have a coffee afterwards. Some go for a beer afterwards, right? That community element and feeling part of something with other human beings, I think, is much more how we are designed. And so,
It's a major contributing factor to like feeling well.
100%. The social element of wellness, I think, is huge. And to my first point, where are Gen Z and millennials finding their partners? Where are they meeting people? What are they doing? It's getting back into that social environment and health and well-being, spinning, sports, running, tennis, paddles become such a huge business. Paddle's a brilliant sport because it takes 4 of you play it, not just 2 of you. And mixed, it's always like, it's a brilliant game for all abilities and all genders and everyone to play together. It's very inclusive. It's quite easy to play. And so trends like that are as much around staying fit as they are around staying around other people. So I think the social and community element of well-being is really strong. And listen, there'll always be a digital element to support that. If I can't go to Barry's live, I might do a Barry's class at home, but I still feel part of the Barry's community. And so probably less digital subscriptions and coming back round to more physical subscriptions, getting back into those boutique studios, getting back into those yoga studios, getting back into those sports clubs and playing together. And the idea of biohacking and optimized self. So the supplements I take, the education courses I take, you are digitally learning Mandarin because it is a brilliant life skill and it's knowledge acquisition. And I would almost class that as a kind of, well-being type of behavior because it is...
It's like a cognitive health.
It's cognitive health. It's brain training.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate brain training. And so brilliant businesses like Masterclass became great because I could get taught how to cook a steak by Gordon Ramsay or play the piano with Alicia Keys. Skill acquisition and optimized self, which, the biohacking side of things is a bit more extreme. I don't think you have to wear blue light cancelling glasses all day and, want to do cryotherapy 3 times a week to you don't have to do that to want to optimize yourself. You might have a supplement that you like to take. You might have a behavior you like to take. And even something like 5 minutes of Wim Hof breathing followed by a 2-minute shower every morning. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And actually, if you've never tried it, has a huge impact on how great you feel for the rest of the day. I'm never going to enjoy the 2-minute cold shower part, but the knock-on effect is great. And so behaviours that make you feel good, being part of a community again, a part, not necessarily an online one, but a physical one where we interact with each other. And, the idea of optimized self, I think, are brilliant trends that we're seeing. And we're seeing some brilliant businesses that are now sort of capitalising on those trends.
Nice. This was so fun. I mean, I could talk to you forever about all things wellness. But any final closing thoughts that you want to share? Any advice or tips as the lifetime coach you are?
I think, it depends. I think everybody, having a routine and a structure, regardless of your aspiration in life, I think everybody could be is a better word, really aiming to be as good as they can at whatever their day throws at them. Now, if you're a full-time mum like my wife is, you need a lot of energy. If you're an entrepreneur like I am, you need a lot of energy. If you're running a business like you are, you need a lot of energy. And I think if you can set yourself up for success by just having some structure and a bit of a routine and the morning, win the morning, win the day, I really abide by that. The first hour of your day sets the tone for the rest of your day. Give yourself the best opportunity to win by having some form of movement in the morning. I love our flow state mushrooms, not just as a plug, but I really, really love the way that it kind of gives me the boost of energy and the sharp focus that I want. I love my morning coffee. I love my breathing exercises. I love that kind of down regulation before the world comes and attacks me. I highly recommend you get yourself a between 5 and 25-minute morning routine that involves activities that give you energy. And maybe I don't know how this podcast will be displayed, but maybe we'll put the 5 things down that I do or that we recommend. And if you started to employ some of those, I think the first day you might not feel it, but by the end of the first week you'll feel it, and by the end of that month you won't want to live without it.
Yeah, just the consistency and discipline, stick at it.
100%.
Results to come.
TBC.
Thanks so much for chatting with me today, Harry. It was great to have you on, finally. Hopefully you'll come back and we can continue the conversation. But if people want to learn more about you, where can they go?
You can follow my Instagram at Harry Jameson PT. And if you're interested in our products, you can go to rainwellbeing.com and at pillarwellbeing.com. We have our health club business. And if you are in the health and wellness space and looking to upskill yourself, you can go to futurepractice.org.
Nice. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Restorative Force podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review and share it with a friend. You can follow us at RAIN Wellbeing on Instagram and at TikTok. Thanks so much and see you next time.